Hey, everybody, we're going to pick up our conversation we started last week. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and listen to that episode, and then you can listen to this episode. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to The Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday.
I would love to transition over to your next business. This is awesome. I feel like we could do this whole episode just about that, but that's super helpful. And I was wondering, could you tell us about what point did you start thinking hey, maybe this is a problem I could solve, matching up, people who need lawn care with quality contractors? Was that after you sold the business, and what was that transition like? How much time did that take to transition between them, and how did that work?
Yeah, it was one that, again, I was another point in my journey where I was very naive. I sold this company and basically retired. I didn't have to work anymore, which was nice. And I got bored. I remember I was on a beach in Costa Rica, and and the only problem I had faced all that week was they ran out of my favorite type of tequila at the bar, and I'm like, I am wired to solve bigger problems than this one.
You need more
Yes.
problems. Yeah.
How old are you at this point?
I was 33. So
Okay.
not young, but not old. And so I thought, well, maybe I should start another business. And I started thinking about it, and getting a good lawn mowing service is a pain in the ass. Like, one thing about running Peachtree, my first company, was we would get 50, sometimes 100 phone calls a day to our front office, people asking us to come cut their grass, because we had this presence in the marketplace, and people just assumed we did that, and we no longer offered that kind of service because it wasn't profitable to do it. And so we would keep a list of names and numbers by the phone, and we would refer out these smaller operators, what we would call Peter in a pickup, Chuck in a truck, so sometimes Molly in a mower. And so we would refer these names and numbers out, because we had kind of a value of running that company to always be helpful, no matter what, even if it wasn't going to be profitable. And so we did that, and then they would call us back. It's like, hey, I called all 10 of those people. I left 9 voicemails. I hired Peter, and he didn't show up. Do you have any other names and numbers? And we're like, wow, okay.
Wow.
No good deed goes unpunished. And so I saw this every single day. And so I knew that there was a consumer problem there, that people have money, then they want to hire somebody to do this chore. The problem is that the guys and gals that do this type of service, they're hard to get on the phone. They don't have a brand presence. They don't have a marketing process. They don't have systems in place to reliably deliver it. And also, they're on a mower all day, and so it's they don't have a receptionist, and so it's really a challenge. And I thought, well, an app needs to exist where you can just push a button and hire one of these folks, because Uber was doing it for cars and Lyft and Airbnb. You could book a couch in somebody's house, and I thought, it should be pretty easy. You just make the app, and people will use it, and we'll just have this huge success. It'll take a year and a half, and it should be a lot easier than the first company. So I was telling a couple friends about the idea, and they're like, man, that's brilliant. We should do that. And so recruited 2 co-founders, and we didn't know the first thing about building software. And we paid a development shop to build the first version of GreenPal, and it took them 9 months. And we pulled together some money that we had personally, and we spent $150,000 and 9 months, and we built this thing, and it was a total piece of crap. Released it, and it was a total flop. We couldn't get people to use it. It didn't have the features it needed. It was buggy. It didn't deliver on the promise of push a button and get a good lawn mowing service. And so we had a gut check. We were like, wow, this is going to be a lot harder than we thought it was going to be. I don't know. I don't know how Uber made it look so simple, but this is a lot harder than we thought this was going to be. And we had a gut check. And at the time, we were reading a book called The Startup Owner's Manual by Steve Blank and another book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And what these two books basically tell you in 1,000 pages is that in the early days of creating a new tech product, you have to get out of the building and talk to your customers. That's the only thing you have. That's the only lifeblood of feedback and to even understand if you're building something that people want. And so we did that, and we met with the first 12 people that used our crappy app, and we heard the same thing 12 times in a row. The guy didn't show up, or they were disappointed, and for whatever reason. But we never heard, "I don't want this." We never heard, "I don't need this." We never saw apathy. Matter of fact, they were pissed off and let down that it did not work. And we took that as a point of validation that, this is going to be really hard, but imagine if we could get it to work. People will actually use this. And we decided, okay, well, let's do whatever it takes to be successful in this. And we learned how to build software ourselves. I learned how to become the world's most terrible front-end engineer. And my co-founder went to software school and became a crappy back-end engineer. And we had to do a complete rewrite. Nothing that we had paid the development shop to build was useful. Do a complete rewrite and built the second version. And then started making just a little bit of money to where we could hire some dev hours.
Where did the motivation come? Was it just an innate feeling of man, I know if we can get this to work, it's going to be a massive success? Because again, it's you didn't need the money right at that time, but you wanted to do something. So was there an adventure element involved in learning code and pushing yourself to gain a new skill?
Yeah,
and whatnot.
Looking back in the rear view, you can look at it, it's wow, look how far we've come and all these things we've done and how the business has required me to learn these things I never would have learned. Isn't that wonderful? But going through it, there was no adventurous fun aspect element at all ever in the first 5 years. It was
the first 5 years. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know who said it. It might have been Elon Musk, but he said entrepreneurship is like chewing glass to the point where you eventually love to come the taste of you love the taste of your own blood. And that's how it was, man, building this thing. The first 3 to 4, 5 years were just like that. There was no fun at all.
So what was the driving factor for you? Because it's
I'll tell you,
because it sounds terrible.
Yeah, it sucked. It's fun now. I will tell you this. We're profitable. I got a team of 43 people, and we're doing multiple 8 figures a year in revenue, and it's a lot of fun now. Back then, it was not fun, and the only thing that really kind of kept me and my 2 co-founders going was I kind of had made a decision that by default, no matter what, I was going to be working on my best idea, because I had already gone through a point of reaching maybe second or third base and getting enough financial stability under me where I didn't have to work, and I had already achieved that, and so now it was well, no matter what, you're going to be working on your best idea by default. And I guess fortunately, I'm not terribly creative. I've had one good idea in 10 years, and this is it. I had
I'm going to make it work.
You see these huge successes. You see so and so company sold for 9 figures, and so and so company raised $100 million, and you're a little jealous, to be honest. And you're well, you didn't have that idea, and you didn't build the team and scale that and execute on that idea, so it doesn't matter. You have this one idea, and so it's that's what's happened for me. That's what kept me and my team and I going in the early years, was that no matter what, we were going to work on this thing. And yeah, sure, we made 10 grand our second year. Imagine if we could double that to 20 grand. And then imagine if we could double it again. And imagine if we could double it again. And so it's just working backwards, knowing that all of these big things start small, and just focusing on a few key metrics and moving the needle on those, and having the faith that if you can continue to compound, that eventually you'll have something. And that's how it unfolded for us. The other thing that's a little weird about our story is we didn't raise any money. A lot of times these huge these tech-based companies raise a ton of capital, and
Right.
it's a get rich or die trying dynamic where if they execute well and make the right bets, they hit a grand slam. Most of the time they strike out. And for us, I didn't really want to do that. I didn't really want to take us down that path. So we took the sustainable approach. Luckily we did, because there's been about a dozen other Uber for lawn care ideas that have crashed and burned and raised a bunch of money, and now they're in the graveyard.
What are your co-founders still involved in the business?
Yeah, still the same three guys that we started with, and they manage different segments of what we do, and without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. I couldn't have done it alone.
Are they like personal friends, like buddies of yours from, like growing up, or who are these guys, and, how have you stayed together through these years, even through difficult times and stuff?
Yeah. They're friends that I've had for 20 something years. And so I was optimizing for like ambition and trust and not talent. And that's probably the only thing that worked out. I saw a talk by this guy named Simon Sinek, where he talks about the Navy SEALs and how they recruit, like SEAL Team 6, how they recruit Navy SEALs and what they look for. And so they lay it out on like a 2x2 matrix. And on the vertical axis is talent. So the ability to kill somebody with your bare hands and shoot, somebody from, a football field away, and, like talent. And then and then on the horizontal axis is trust. And he talks about how they will overlook somebody who's got more talent than trust. And so they really kind of over optimize on the trust side of who they're looking for, because they'll take somebody who's less talented who they trust more. And that's kind of how we did it. I knew I could trust these guys. I knew that they were hard workers. They had a lot of ambition. The only problem was none of us knew the first damn thing about building a software product. So we had to learn all that stuff, and we did, and that's how it worked out.
Nice. And I, because I always hear like, oh, never start, business with a friend, or never have partners, go alone, because it's going to cause drama, and you're going to have a breakup and ruin friendships and stuff. So, I mean,
to that point, I agree. I agree that I just got very lucky.
Yeah.
And so my advice on co-founders is to try to go alone as far as you can, and to take it as far as you can, and to really try to do it without a co-founder, because bad co-founder dynamics ruin more businesses than anything. And another thing is like, we date somebody for like, a year, 2 or 3 years before getting married, yet we'll found a business, within, weeks or months of knowing this person. Whereas if your business is successful, you're going to be spending more time with that co-founder than your actual spouse. It's actually easier to get a divorce than it is to unwind a cap table. and like you're going to be going through like probably more difficult times with your co-founder than you are your actual spouse. Like you're really going to have to go through some hell with this person. So really think of it as a marriage. Give it the same weight. And don't get married, in a business context until you have found your business soulmate, and you cannot imagine running the business without them. If not, don't do it. Yeah. And then the other thing, to assign a nominal value, you look at it this way. Ask yourself, if you had $10 million in the bank, would you give this person $10 million to start the business with you? And if the answer is no, then don't start the business with them, because there's going to come a point in time where maybe their equity will be worth $10 million. Or maybe you do raise capital, and like the amount of equity that they hold is going to have that nominal value. So ask yourself the $10 million question on starting a business with somebody. If the answer is no, don't do it.
With partners, how did that play out with equity? Like, was it like a, 1/3 each or a quarter per person? Like, where is it pretty cut and dry?
Real simple. 30. And because I didn't want to do it with like me being like the boss or anything like that. And technically I do have, like, I guess you could say, the tiebreaker position because I am CEO, but No,
Right.
our cap table is real clean. It's got 3 names, and that's how it's laid out. And that's been that simplicity has been one of the things that's helped us be successful. And without these 2 guys, I probably most likely wouldn't be here. They really helped, particularly in those early years, in terms of the heavy lifting of writing the code, figuring out like how to get ourselves on TV. I have one co-founder. All he's done for 10 years is PR. That's it. Emailing 100 journalists a day, day in, day out. And, last year he was on TV 70 times, with local ABC, NBC, at Fox News, talking about GreenPal, talking about GreenPal coming to town, talking about GreenPal solving problems for small business owners. And that's all he's done. And, without that, we probably wouldn't be here.
That's amazing. Would you mind sharing with us maybe 1 or 2 mistakes you feel like you've made throughout the years that you feel like are common or that you could warn people away from? And then maybe a couple of things you're like, man, I succeeded because I did this 1 or 2 things right.
Yeah. I think we succeeded because of like the superpower of consistency, just showing up day in, day out, being consistent, looking at the 2 or 3 things that you can work on, that you can improve, that you can move the needle on. What I call output metrics and input metrics, looking at like the output metric is we need to get sales from 10 grand to 100 grand. That's the first year. And the input metric is, well, like we need 100 more people a day to sign up. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we need to make this many more landing pages. Well, we need to make this much more content. Well, we need to like hire this, it's like, what are the things you're doing on a daily basis? What's the input metrics? Focusing on those and not really worrying about anything else has been another thing that's kind of helped us grind our way to where we are. Things that I've done wrong as a manager, as a leader, the balance of delegating versus doing it yourself is weird because, like, on the one hand, okay, well, let's delegate it, right? Well, not necessarily, because you look at the first mistake we made out the gate was we delegated the construction of the first version of the app, and it was a total failure. It cost us a year and 150 grand. And so it's like, when do you delegate? When do you self-execute? And knowing the difference. And so mistakes I've made is I delegated too soon, and then another mistake I've made is I delegated too late. Because when we made that mistake and it was so costly, we did everything ourselves for like 4 years, and we didn't develop a system and a process to delegate out to contractors, agencies, and employees quick enough. So really being mindful of that. So when you get something stood up, you know how to do it, and you do what's called you can do delegation by stewardship and not delegation from abdication. And so one of my favorite books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And that's one thing he has like a whole chapter on is stewardship delegation and not delegation by abdication. So delegation by abdication is, I don't know how to do this. It scares me. I don't want to learn how to do it. I'm too lazy to learn how to do it. You handle it. That's always a recipe for disaster. Stewardship delegation is, here's the scope of work for what it is we're trying to do. Here's how we expect for it to be done. Here's the quality standard that we're going to use to measure your performance. Here's how long we expect it to take. Here's what we think is fair to pay for it. And here is the timeline that by which you need to get started and get done. And all, your the stewardship delegation, and that person handles it and does it better than you can. And then you can focus on other things while they're working on that. That's like a recipe for successful delegation. And that's one mistake that I have made over time as I've delegated from abdication and then not delegated quick enough from a stewardship standpoint.
One of the things that we talk about at the Friday Habit, is the idea of constantly learning, but then not just learning, but putting that learning into action. And, over our conversation, over this past hour almost, I keep hearing you name drop books and authors and speakers and all that. So it sounds to me like you are constantly learning. And like you said, there's kind of like that 3 aspects of your business. that you got to take a percentage of your time and devote that back to learning and educating yourself. What does that look like for you as far as, your routine of educating yourself and learning and reading new books, getting inspired, and then taking that knowledge and putting it back into practice?
Yeah, I think, 20 years of entrepreneurship has taught me one really cool thing, and it's that I can pretty much, if I'm sufficiently motivated, I can learn the 80-20 of anything. And so entrepreneurship and being a founder will teach you not to believe your own BS. Because a lot of times we think, well, I'm a right brain person, so I can't learn that left brain thing, or vice versa. Whereas, if your back's against the wall and you've got to learn like the Pareto 80-20 principle of whatever that thing is, and you really just dive into YouTube University and dive into online classes and read the books, and then you put it into practice, you'll learn about yourself that, wow, I actually can write front-end code, or I actually can, walk into a room of 10 people who are pissed off and deliver a talk that gets us all on the same page and turns the ship around. Wow. And so it's like, that's one of the cool things about it, is you learn that you can learn. And that's how it's unfolded for me. And that's one thing I love about it.
That's awesome. That's so great. Well, hey, we love to kind of recap our conversation with you and kind of share these key takeaways that we get from each episode. So Ben takes amazing, copious notes. So if you could pick maybe, Ben, from this conversation, your top key points, what would those be?
My top 27 points.
Top 27.
I just got a few. Bryan, you said if you want to keep people, make sure your business is a place that you would want to work. And I thought that was really profound. Make sure you create a well-running machine so you can pay your people better. It's kind of your responsibility to do that. Always be helpful to your customers, even if it's not directly profitable. Being consistent on a daily basis is a superpower. And if you guys want to check out the books that Bryan mentioned, I made a list of, I think there's 6 or 7 of them in there with the authors, so you can check out the show notes to find any of those books.
That's awesome. Hey, Bryan, if people want to connect with you, or maybe hear more about your journey, or maybe just figure out how to get involved with GreenPal, what is the best way to get in touch?
Yeah. Life's too short to cut your own grass, so just go to greenpal.com and hire a good lawn mowing service, and you can focus on your business. Anybody want to hit me up? I spend most of my time socially on Instagram, Bryan M. Clayton. Just drop me a follow and a DM there. I'll hit you back.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And thanks for joining us and listening to The Friday Habit. If you go to thefridayhabit.com to find show notes for this episodes, you can do that there. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system that will show you how to set aside one full day each week to dedicate working on your business instead of in your business.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app or in the Spotify app. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, don't forget to record us a voice memo and send it to hello@thefridayhabit.com.
That's right. And until next time, remember, live every day like it's Friday.